we're back. Welcome back. Hello. Welcome back to Armed with Ambition. I am your host, Siobhan Cunningham, and I'm so excited to discuss micromanagement today. You don't believe me? I actually really am. But first, let's talk about last week's episode. Just a quick recap. We talked about strong leadership model, starting with the principle of surrender, and we dove a little bit deep into what that looks like. So do me a favor, if you have not looked at that one, go check it out. I have a link in the description. Today, we're tackling an issue many leaders face, and that's micromanaging tendencies. If you have ever felt the need to control every detail or struggled to trust your team, this episode is for you. Let's explore how to identify those triggers and take the first step towards overcoming them. Story time! When I was stationed in Montana, they transitioned me into a role that I could tell was going to be tough. The program was called Family Advocacy, so it dealt with maltreatment to family or suspected abuse and prevention, support, education, parenting, relationship support. And when I got into it, the program was half-staffed. There was also a civilian who was there who hated me, literally made my life miserable. And I did not have a passion for serving in that program. I was burned out from being in the Air Force. I was burned out from child welfare because that was my minor in undergrad. And it was part of the reason why I decided to get my master's. And I just felt stuck in that position. Aside from that one civilian who did not like me, the others were really smart. Whether the other staff and the team were super smart, very talented, and very capable. But you wouldn't have known it from how I was acting. I double-checked everything they did. I hovered over their projects. And, I micromanaged. That was me. Hello, micromanaging club. Why did I do that? Because I was scared. Scared that if something went wrong, it would reflect poorly on me. The stakes were so much higher in the military. It was like, someone slips and falls because you failed to pick up a piece of paper that was on the floor, so they could stop them from saving someone's lives. Like, mistakes in the military means people died. At least that's what it meant to me. And people's lives really rely on you being on top of your game, especially if you were an officer or in some form of leadership. And so in my way of understanding things is that if you had one flaw or made one mistake, it would decrease my value. I felt like I had to prove myself by being perfect and doing everything right. And by doing that, I put unnecessary pressure on everyone around me and myself. When I tell you that I behaved so poorly at one point, I made the sweetest lady cry. I think I was coming off as intimidating to her, and she just did not like the energy. And I can be transparent about it now, about how much distress I was functioning under and how that worked towards other people and how that impacted other people around me. And I did eventually end up apologizing. And if you were ever watching this and you know who you are, I still am so sorry for how I treated you that day. It definitely was not my intention. I just wanted the program to run well because I was under a lot of pressure. So I know I talked about being relieved from duty, and it was clear that they had lost trust in my ability to perform. And that hit me hard. I realized that my fear of failure and desire to control was undermining not just the leadership's confidence in me, but my overall ability to shine as a leader, as someone that even those who worked under me or for me, they didn't see me shining, And so I reflect back on my behavior, and I know now that when I'm stressed, I need to use that as a gut check and ask myself, do I need to release some of this pressure? But before we get even deeper into this topic, you might be asking yourself, what is micromanagement? Well, I have a description. It's when we try to control every detail of a process, often out of fear or insecurity. And here are some common triggers for micromanaging behaviors: fear of team failure or being blamed, lack of trust in team members, and perfectionism or the fear of appearing incompetent. Were you able to connect that, fear of being incompetent might be connected to your perfectionism? I don't think I really did until I started diving into this topic. You might notice you're micromanaging if you overcommunicate tasks, redo work that other people's done, or avoid delegation. Does that sound familiar? It rings true for me. And you're not alone, because these behaviors are often driven by the desire to protect ourselves from perceived risks, but they also can do more harm than good. The good news is that once we identify these triggers, we can take steps to address them. Whew. Let's turn now to take a moment and reflect on your own micromanaging tendencies. Grab a notebook or use your notes app on your phone. Hi, millennials. Oh, wait, that's me. I think I do pen and paper. I don't know. What do you prefer? Notes app, notebook, either way. Here's some prompts that I want you to write down and reflect on, either now or after the show, when you have time to yourself. The first one: what tasks or situations make you feel most anxious about losing control? Second question: how do you typically respond when your team member struggles or makes mistakes? And third, what underlying fears drive your need to micromanage? Now, these questions might feel uncomfortable, but they are the first step to understanding your own triggers. Remember, transparency with yourself is the key here. If you want to know more about these topics, you can feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I would love to answer more questions in a future segment. Also, I could take that information and see if there's more resources that I can provide for you as you see if there's a need. So please don't hesitate to reach out to me on LinkedIn and give me your thoughts on these answers. I am so excited about this next segment. Growing up, I didn't see too many marriages done how I would have wanted them to be done. Again, I'm no expert on this. This is not shaming those relationships. But I also never really talked to my parents about boys, except for kind of like your body is a temple and don't have sex until you're married. So those are decent starts for a marriage or relationships. But now that I'm divorced and I have two girls, I want to offer them a little bit more depth than what I was given. And so I called my mom and asked if she wanted to have a fun Q&A about relationships. And she agreed. You want to see it? Here it goes. Mom, first question. What advice would you give someone who's afraid to let go of control in a partnership?
A healthy relationship consists of both giving and taking. A relationship is never 100. It's going to be 50-50, 70-30, 100-0. No one person should try to control or dominate the other, because when one partner is doing really good, the other partner might not be doing so good. So one will have to give more than the other. So control is something that you have to relinquish in order to have a balanced relationship. Love each other and just remember to not treat someone in a way that you would not want to be treated. If you keep that in mind, you will have a healthy relationship and no one will control the other, and you will not want control of the other. So just be secure in that.
You gave such a good example of a balanced relationship. I think one of the things that I had a hard time with in my marriage or even my relationships in general was the idea that love is not always fair. You have to make choices. One of the things that's really tough about trying to figure out what end of the emotional burden or physical burden do you take in a marriage? I think that's important. I don't know how I figured out what to do. I can think about what I would like moving forward. It goes back to what you were saying about not trying to control. So instead of doing things with the expectation that they would reciprocate or respond in the way that I want them to, I just behave as if they are already doing and being the person that I want them to be. And that's a little bit different than normal. What are your thoughts about that?
Yes, I do have one more thing. So I think the better way to think of all of this is to let everybody be themselves. And in our quest to get along with our significant others and other people, we have to accept people for who they are. And I know that is frustrating. And then each person to respond and to be the person that they want the other person to be. I hope that made sense as far as accepting them and then you being, I don't want to be a cliche, but they say be the change that you want to see in the world. So, and then that depends on the other person, because I like not having expectations for other people, because then you don't get disappointed, right? Yeah, and everybody is different, so we're going to respond different. Although we'll want them to be a certain way, do a certain thing, say a certain thing, we can't control that. Everybody is going to be their own selves. And that's what makes people different and great. Variety is the spice of life.
Variety is the spice of life. Okay, Mom, I hear you. I agree. I think it's easy to fall into the trap of trying to make the person fit your life. But reality, it is about understanding who that person is and appreciating them for just that, whether or not they're a part of your life or not. That was so much fun, Mom. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for coming on and giving your thoughts and agreeing to do this again with me because I know it wasn't easy. I know I stumped you there for a minute and we had to regroup. So I appreciate it so much, and hopefully we'll keep doing more of this. I love hearing my mom's perspective on these things. It gives me so much to think about, and I hope it was helpful for you too. All right. let's dive back into today's topic about micromanaging. Now that we've identified your triggers, let's talk about actionable steps to address them. 1. Acknowledge the problem. Own your micromanaging tendencies without judgment. Awareness is the first step. What does that look like for me? Well, I know that when I'm hovering and I'm really stressed out about meeting a deadline or not being able to perform, or maybe I'm even just nervous about the outcome of something, I often have to step back and pay attention to like my heart rate. Am I getting the jitters? Really looking at myself and how I'm responding. If I don't feel calm, then it's a gut check for me, and acknowledging that there's areas here that I'm not super comfortable with. What does that look like for you? Build trust. Step 2 is build trust. Start delegating tasks. Be clear with your expectations and let the team take ownership. Being clear with expectations is giving a deadline. I expect this thing done by this timeline. And then asking, how does that feel to you? Does that seem manageable? Okay, well, I explained to my person, my boss or whoever, that we were going to have this done by this date. If that's not realistic, please let me know what is more realistic and why. That's opening dialogue, building trust, getting an understanding of the person who needs to execute it, why they're having apprehension. And that curiosity creates space for compromise and adjustments of expectations. And then let your team take ownership, especially if they're giving you feedback about if they can do something, then they are taking ownership in the process. They're brainstorming how they're going to get it done, and they're giving you that confidence that they can achieve what task you're expecting them to achieve. Set boundaries. That's number 3. Again, part of building that trust as well is setting boundaries and allowing people to work within it. So as a supervisor or a leader, it's your job to check on the status of progress, but you don't have to do it every day. And honestly, you probably don't have time to do it every day. And so if you're going to have a weekly meeting to talk about progress, then maybe at the midway point, you send an email saying, hey, I'm looking forward to meeting with you on next week. These are the things we have discussed for the agenda. Please be ready to share your progress on it, or if I can support you, if you need support in any areas. Again, you're setting boundaries, but you're also opening up communication. And then 4 is growth, celebrating growth. Recognizing and celebrating your team's accomplishments and their progress goes a long way, along with saying thank you for all your hard work as well. Just being a generally supportive and pleasant person can help people really work through a task. And research has shown, I read this in Harvard Business Review recently, that when you thank someone before, you show appreciation before you ask them to do something, or they've accepted doing it, it really does allow them to feel a lot better about taking on that task. I can maybe link that in the link below if I find it. It was in a small, it's there. If I find it, I'll link it. If I can't find it, I'm not going to link it. Remember, optimism and grace are your allies on this journey, and change takes time. So every step forward matters. It does not have to be a sprint, not all the time. As leaders, our words and actions have the potential to shape the stories of others. This is especially true for journalists who work tirelessly to uncover truth and create impact. As a military veteran entering the field, finding your voice and honing your craft is crucial. That's where military veterans and journalism comes in. This organization supports veterans through mentorship, training, and opportunities to thrive in journalism. Their mission is to help veterans navigate the creative and meaningful career path while giving them the tools to share their unique perspectives with the world. Military veterans in journalism can guide you, whether you're transitioning into journalism or looking to amplify your leadership voice. Visit their website at www.mvj.network to learn more and take the next step in your storytelling journey. As we close today, let's revisit the principle of transparency. Being honest with yourself and others about your fears can reduce micromanagement tendencies and build stronger relationships. Do me a favor, if you feel comfortable and safe to do so, close your eyes. Take a deep breath and remind yourself, I don't have to do it all. I don't have to do it alone. Trust begins with me. I don't have to do it all. I don't have to do it alone. Trust begins with me. I think it's a great mantra for today's episode. Well, today we explored micromanaging triggers and steps to address them. Remember, identifying these tendencies is a sign of growth, not weakness. In our next episode, we'll dive into trust versus control and the art of strategic delegation. You don't want to miss it. See you next time on Armed with Ambition. Take care.
Where do we go from? Where do we go from here? No one can save us from keeping